Support for this podcast comes from viewers and listeners like you. If you would like to financially contribute to this podcast, please go over to patreon.com/DavrimTV or join us on the live stream, twitch.tv/Davrim. Welcome to Pirate Talk Radio, your podcast for Sea of Thieves news. There's always something to talk about, whether it be patch notes, whether it be bugs, whether it be exploits, whether it be cosmetics that personally I find beautiful but ugly at the same time. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome back, guys, to Pirate Talk Radio episode 57. And this is almost a continuation, honestly, of the last two episodes, 55, 56, where we went through the preview of Season 5, and then we dove into the longevity and timing of Season 5 a little bit last week. And this week, we're going to talk about continuing that trend and talk about the development cycle and utilizing my experience, I should say, in software, and talking about the development cycle that most software companies go through, which, though I've never worked in a game development studio, I have been in several different industries managing, software development and things like that. So I've got a kind of a good handle on how a lot of software companies operate. Now, that's not to say Rare is going to operate this way or not, but I think I have a pretty good handle on with how many years I've played Sea of Thieves, seeing how things kind of come out and what things have been said, and then how they line up in timing. So kind of go through what I think is currently being worked on and some things like that. We also got some great information and again, if you have not went over to check out Captain Logan's Keelhauled podcast, I strongly suggest you do. His 200th episode just released last week, and he had Mike Chapman on, and it was a good, hour plus of talking to Mike about where Sea of Thieves has come from, how far it's gone, what's coming in the future, and there's Mike definitely gave no indication that they're slowing down, and there's a lot of cool stuff that they have planned and coming. And one particular thing that I was very interested about, and one particular thing that kind of caught me off guard. So we'll talk about that. And then finally, Sea of Thieves was nominated for 2 gaming awards in the accessibility area by a company called Can I Play That, which is a game awards company or Game Awards organization who awards game studios and video games for awards based around accessibility. And knowing that, a few episodes ago, we talked in depth about how Sea of Thieves has really taken, and how Rare in general has really taken to accessibility and making sure that their game is possible to play by anyone, regardless of disability, exceptionality, whatever it may be. Rare is dedicated to making sure that you can play and have fun in Sea of Thieves. So that's kind of what's on the docket for today. It has been an extremely busy December. I didn't anticipate my December being this busy and chaotic, but it has been crazy. So I hope everyone out there is doing well. I hope everyone's getting ready for the holidays if you celebrate. Again, when this episode comes out, we'll be in that final countdown, that last week before Christmas, and then one more week before New Year's. There will obviously, the podcast will still continue through the holidays, obviously. But again, you won't get another episode until probably Christmas Day or the day after Christmas based on when I can get it recorded. So again, take care of yourselves out there. As I always say, take care of each other, be safe, and have a happy holiday. And I'll see you after Christmas as far as that's concerned. But let's get into our topics today. And I want to continue with our trend first before we get to the game awards and stuff like that. I want to continue our trend first with the development cycle and with the timing of Season 5. I talked last week in episode 56 that I thought that the Season 5 timing was off and bad. Just because, again, during this time, during holidays, you've got students out of class, you've got universities not doing class, you've got people taking off time from work for the holidays, and you have people sitting on their butts looking for something to do. And for many people, that's video games. And there are a lot of games out there, and Rare is part of Microsoft, knowing Halo Infinite came out. They have to compete, and they have to compete for butts in the seat with eyeballs on their game. And I honestly don't think that Season 5 was a good release to have during the holidays. I think the features of Season 5 were great. I think the tools, not rules approach of Season 5 and the bug fixes and stuff that they put in was great. But I think this was I will call it complementary features, where they should have complemented a more larger content initiative over the holidays when you're really trying to compete for space and for time for people's time playing video games, right? People are playing everything. Everyone has some sort of winter event. World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy, New World, Apex, Overwatch, Halo Infinite just came out. Everything has a winter event or games have launched. And there's a lot of competition out there to get you to play Sea of Thieves. And again, we briefly looked at the Steam analytics last week. And again, I know that that's only a very small percentage of players, but it shows us a very clear trend that after A Pirate's Life, we anticipated players going down, but we keep seeing these sharp declines. So I'm anxious to see what the numbers will look like after the holidays and see what those numbers look like. But we also talked about players saying the seas are dead. There's not many people on. I have personally not experienced that. All the servers that I've played on have definitely had at least a couple ships that I've seen throughout the play. I have not gone through a multiple hour play session without seeing another ship. So in my mind, that's not too bad right now. But, you know, it is what it is. And I feel like Season 5, all the cool features that we got in Season 5 that really just open up the gambit for people to be able to create their own stories, which is what Sea of Thieves is all about. It really were complementary features that in my mind would have been better off complementing things like the Sunken Kingdom, which was a content update, but it was a bad one. I mean, there are still shrines to this day that have really nasty bugs in them and just are really a garbage play experience to be in general. They look beautiful, but they're just a garbage time, and it wasn't really received well. That would have been a great update to also include fun things like buried treasure or the dice game or you know, cannon rowboats. You know, that would have been a great update to take something that really wasn't that great and kind of boost it up a little bit more with some cool new features to play with. And I don't know. I just think a standalone update of tools, not rules, though good, as far as what the game is, you know, a game is all about, bad as far as getting players to sit down when they've got the free time during the holidays. Just not good timing there. So what is Sea of Thieves doing right now? So we just got Season 5. It just hit. And in 3 months from now, we're going to get Season 6. So for those of you out there who maybe have never spent time in a software development team or a company that has a software development calendar, what does that look like? I will again preface in the very beginning that I have no association with Rare. I don't have any communication with Rare staff aside from every so often I'll get a message from one of the developers who listens to the show. I don't know what their development cycle looks like. I don't know what their calendar looks like. I'm just again basing this off my experience in software and how kind of a calendar or a release cycle goes. We know that Rare's release cycle is 3 months. They obviously have small patches and events throughout that time, but their major releases are on a 3-month calendar. are seasons, right? Those are the major releases. So we're on season 5. So how much further ahead is the development team working? Well, if I were to gather something, season 6 is pretty much finished in development. I would say season 6, which is what we'll get in 3 months, is relatively finished in development. And what it is it's now going through the Rare system of QA. So Rare is looking at it, Rare is testing it. Their QA teams are doing their final look at it. And then it will soon go to insiders within the next month or so for people to start testing. Now, you're probably not going to see the splash screen of season 6, and there's probably features in insiders, as Mike Chapman mentioned on the Keelhold podcast, that aren't going to be in season 6 and are probably not going to be things that we're going to be seeing for a while, but they're in the playground, if you will, with other stuff where players are testing right now and QAing, and that might not be season 6, but it's already being tested for future seasons. That's kind of what Insiders is about, right? Insiders is not directly responsible for testing what's coming directly next. Insiders is about a playground for players to test new features that Rare is looking to implement. A lot of times, we will see season 6 in there or season 7 or whatever the next season's going to be, where players are hardcore testing it before release. But in general, there's also a lot of other stuff in there. And then the season comes out and players are like, oh man, I tested something in Insiders and didn't get it. Well, that's what happens. But I would say at this point, going into season 5, season 6 is done with development. Obviously, there's going to be tweaks and changes, but we're in QA now for season 6. Whatever is going to happen in season 6, it's already on. It's not on paper. It's not on a whiteboard, and it's not in anyone's head. It is actually in code. It's actually in the game. It's ready to go. It's being QA tested, and it's going to go out to insiders whenever they're ready to push it there. So if again, in my experience with development cycles, that's probably where season 6 is right now. Season 7, I would say, is probably in my guess, 75 to 90% done. I would say we're already well into season 7's development. It's probably finishing up. It'll probably finish it up in the next month and a half. Probably when we're starting to see season 6 hit insiders, we'll start to see season 7 will be like in Rare's QA. So when season 6 comes out, season 7 will then be fully in inside. You're seeing the trend, right? So I would say season 6 done with development, season 7 real close to being done with development. I would say season 8 has finished the design phase and is now in early development. So we're talking half a year from now is the stuff that Rare's probably just now starting on as far as hard coding into the actually building it, right? It's finished with design, and they're probably right now putting code into their databases for what is going to come the second half of next year, which would be season 8 and season 9. So that's probably where they're at. Season 9 is probably currently in a design standpoint as far as art, as far as, writing on a whiteboard and things like that. I would guess that season 9 does not necessarily have much code in there. Again, unless they're looking at long-term features that they're working on testing right now, might be in insiders right now, and just things that they've got held off in the vault, if you will, ready to put into seasons. But not something that necessarily has been said, this is going to be season 9. I would definitely say season 9 is in a design phase right now. Again, art, not really any code, I wouldn't think yet. But again, we're talking about the latter half of next year. We're talking about season 6 would be quarter 1, season 7, quarter 2, season 8, quarter 3, season 9, quarter 4. So we're literally talking about what is going to be released this time next year. It is probably on whiteboards. It is probably in, they're starting to build out their stories, their development stories. That's what we call them in the development world, when you're starting to piece things together, starting to get those art pieces together as far as what if there's any new mobs or if there's any new things like that, getting that art together and stuff like that, if there's changes to the island. And then I would say season 10, which would be the Q1 of 2023, is in what I would call concept right now. So what do we want to do? We've got this flow of where 6 is, where 7 is, 8 is already in early development. 9 is in a design phase. So we know where we're taking our story. We know where we're taking the game. So 10 would probably be in a concept state right now where it's flowing out of the designers' heads, like Mike Chapman and his team. Because, for example, Mike just tweeted not too long ago that he had a meeting with Rare developers on Sea of Thieves and an external consultant about the golden age of piracy. So I would say that, we're probably still a year away from seeing the golden age of piracy, because my guess is what Mike is having a conversation with right now would be things that are 2023 and beyond, right? He's already taken what's in his mind and written it down on whiteboards. He's already worked with Joe Neat and all the team. They've already got all this stuff written down, and some of it's into it. And they're probably already right now road mapping for 2023 and beyond. So that would be season 10 and the future. So we're, based on what I saw on a tweet and based on what Joe said as far as on the Keelhauled podcast, what I took from that is the golden age of piracy will be coming to Sea of Thieves, which, again, we'll talk about that in a second because that blew my mind. But he said it's going to be really exciting when it does. And so my guess is we're talking 2023 or beyond before we see the golden age of piracy again, based on Mike's tweet about having meetings about that and a typical dev cycle, which I've just ran you through the next basically year and 1 quarter of where they're at. So basically, as a new season comes out, another season enters concept, and that just kind of, that's the cycle, right? That's the cycle. But that's not to say Sea of Thieves does not have a long-term roadmap. I'm talking 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years. That's not to say they don't have that roadmap. Do they know exactly what's going to land on each season and each year? And no, they don't. But they can say, we are currently right here with this tools, not rules update. And 2023, we want to hit the golden age of piracy. And, 2025, we want to be here. And, 2020, whatever, we want to do another Disney thing. They probably have a long-term plan going up to potentially 10 years. And Mike talked about that on the Keelhaul podcast. I wouldn't say in length, but he said, we have ideas, and so much future state of this game that we haven't even scratched the surface of this game yet, which is super exciting for us, the players. I just hope, again, they really focus on the timing and make sure that the updates that they are bringing out are impactful updates and not updates that are just kind of like, you kind of punted the ball here like season 5. Again, I think the things they put in season 5 are great, but I think they're complementary features, as I said before, and I think, honestly, this season is going to be a punt as far as the player base. I think the players are going to go to the other games that have more engaging new content, new stuff to do. Halo Infinite, for example, it's all brand new. And I think, honestly, it was kind of a punt over the holidays. Maybe, again, because of the coronavirus. I hate that excuse at this point. Maybe it's because they're working from home and vacation times. I really hate those excuses, honestly. Like, that every year around this time, people are going to take vacation. So you should be planning ahead and stuff like that. We've been in COVID now for, 2 years? We know we should have built processes and developed systems in order to work from home now, that this stuff should not be excuses anymore. So I don't know what the reason is. Maybe Sea of Thieves and maybe Rare thought season 5 would be a really cool season where people would really love the fireworks and really love the dice and really love all these cool tools without the rules, and they would just love it. And I think they did for the first couple days, and then it was like, well, I've shot every firework, I've buried some treasure and made a map, I've played the dice game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there wasn't anything in this game that it's going to impact the game long term because these things aren't going away, but it wasn't anything to keep people's attention more than a couple giggles and some cool screenshots for the first week. In fact, I actually heard the comment on a couple streams of their larger content creators of, I don't even pick up fireworks anymore. They were cool for the first day. Now they're just whatever. So, and again, we're talking about the content creators that are partnered with Rare, the content creators which are supposed to be promoting the game and showing the highs of the game and showing what's awesome about the game. And when you've got a large scale audience of, thousands of live stream viewers, and you've got an audience of, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands on YouTube, and when you have comments like, yeah, they were really cool, they were really fun, but I don't even pick them up anymore because it was fun for a day. That's not exactly what you want to hear from an update that's supposed to last 3 months. Because I'll be honest with you, there are a lot of people out there that when some new update comes out, there are folks like me who don't like spoilers and try to get in there and do what we can to learn. But there are a lot of people out there that's like, yeah, Sea of Thieves is fun, but I'm going to see what Pace does first and see if it's something that I want to spend time with. I'm going to see what, Summit does. And then I'll think about, I'm going to see what, Boxy does. And then I'm going to decide, there are people out there who watch YouTube and then also watch live streams, and they make their determination based on that streamer or that content creator if they're going to come back and sit down at the game. And if you've released a system of content where the content creator within the first couple days is like, yeah, there's cool new stuff, but it's boring now. That's not what you want to hear. And again, Rare's not one of those folks out there that I believe is telling their content creators, now you guys have to talk about how awesome this is and be positive. It seems to me like Rare gives their content creators pretty openness about, giving feedback and talking about the game to their viewers, which I think is great. A company should never fear their content creators. In fact, they should encourage their content creators to give them feedback. If they're coming out with updates which are not lasting and which updates that they can't really talk positive about after the first day or after the first couple hours, then, their responsibility as a partnered content creator should be going back to Rare and saying, hey, you may want to think about how you're doing this, because I can't really talk positive about your new update because it's lame and it hasn't lasted long. You got some cool stuff in here, but it should have been mixed in with some other things, right? It shouldn't have been its own standalone update. So I think I enjoy Rare because they don't really silence people, again, unless you're doing something that you shouldn't be, like exploiting or something like that. Then they're going to step in and be like, hey, yeah. But if you're talking honestly and openly about your community and the game you love, then they're not going to say anything, which I think is really good. So there's this other bucket that I think Mike Chapman talked a little bit about on the Keelhaul podcast, and I refer to it in the development world as the future bucket, right? It's this giant bucket of ideas that sits in the closet in the corner of the room in a light, in that room, the light's turned off. And basically what happens is when you sit down and you've got your whiteboard in front of you and you got your marker out and you say, okay, here is season 10, or here is season, XYZ, whatever the number is. Here's our 3-month season. What do we need to plug into this season? Well, we've got cannon rowboats. Oh, we've got fireworks. Oh, we've got dice. Oh, we've got siren shrines. Oh, we've got hit registration. And you've basically got this giant bucket of ideas in the corner of the room in the dark closet with the lights off. And when you put that box down and you write season 10 or season 11 or season 256 on the whiteboard, now you need to be able to reach into that dark room, into that bucket, and start pulling out ideas and start pasting it on your whiteboard and saying, yeah, let's have all these done. And then you start to say, well, that's going to take a little longer, so let's put that back in the bucket for something else. Oh, this is pretty quick, so let's add something else from the bucket. And it's basically a brain dump of the designers, from Mike Chapman, Joe Neat, from all the different heads there that have a idea of the roadmap of this game, and that bucket is full of ideas. Maybe they've been driven from the community. Maybe they've been driven from their content creators. Maybe they're coming from the head of Mike Chapman with lore, or maybe they're coming from Joe Neat with the executive production and how he wants this game to go. Maybe they're coming from the team that handles accessibility. Whatever the case may be, there's a giant bucket of ideas which allows them to then build these 3-month seasons and the content inside of it. And that bucket is huge. It is always full, and it is always getting more ideas. Someone may come up with the idea, hey, you know what'd be really cool in Sea of Thieves? An airplane. And so they write down, turn galleon into airplane with pixie dust from Tinkerbell. Disney Update 3. Fold it up, put it in the barrel. Will it ever get selected? Probably not, but that's what I'm saying. Like, this is kind of like brainstorming. It's kind of like taking whatever weird things, cool things, bad things, good things in your brain that deals with the game that you're working on and vomiting it into a bucket. And it's just a pile of ideas, good, bad, or ugly. It's a pile of ideas that then they can pull from, tweak, and then slap on their whiteboard when they have to block in a 3-month season. And one of those ideas, which I mentioned a little bit ago, is the golden age of piracy. Now, for those out there who've been listening to this podcast for a while, you will know that I'm a huge history nerd. And you will also know that I'm a massive history buff on the golden age of piracy in the West Indies. If you don't know what the West Indies are, it is the area that is the Caribbean, the Bahamas, the coast of Florida, even up into the Virginias. It's basically what Europe viewed as India, trying to get to the West in India. That's where the Indies come from, right? They were sailing to they were sailing west in order to find a faster trade route to China and India. And they ran into this giant landmass called North America. And what happened was that then became the West Indies, is what they named it. And it became things like Nassau Town, which was the Pirate Republic stronghold in the Bahamas, the Caribbean, Pirates of the Caribbean, where that was generated from. We're talking about the coasts of Florida, the Carolinas, even up into Virginia, is part of this story. And the golden age of piracy was really focused around this. Now, that's not to say that there aren't pirates still to this day in the Somali area of Africa, and there weren't Asian pirates and pirates like that. But in general, when we talk about pirates that we know, swashbuckling swordsmen who take over ships, steal your plunder, and get rich off of that, right? We're talking about the pirates in the Bahamas. We're talking about the pirates in the Caribbean. That's what we're talking about. Free men who basically stole ships or left the military and became their own privateers, as it were. Privateer is a weird word because privateer means you're employed by someone. But these folks believe themselves to be free. They did not answer to any government. And they sailed their ships around and disrupted trade from French trading, English trading, and Spanish trading, which again, they're trying to trade from the New World, right? The United States, from Mexico, from Brazil, South America. They're trying to trade from those areas back to England, France, Spain, Portugal, and vice versa, right? That's colonization. And this golden age of piracy was when these pirates unified, right? So we're not talking about just individual pirates out there for themselves. We're talking about the unification of pirates basically in their own government, in a free man's Bahamas. And that was Nassau Town. If you've watched the Starz show Black Sails, you get a good idea of how that particular time worked, right? It is a fantasy, right? It is based on a book, but it is a good representation of what that looked like. You had a whole bunch of pirate crews that basically lived in this town. It was a relatively set up republic. It was called the Pirates Republic, actually, where every man, regardless of rank, got a vote. When you joined a ship, you signed the ship's articles, which says you agree to work on this ship and you get X amount of the plunder based on your role. Any sort of decisions made in the town, came from a council of pirates that, again, were looking out for their crew. And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the golden age of piracy. We're talking about men like Charles Vane. We're talking about men like Edward Teach or Blackbeard. We're talking about a huge slew of names, famous names of pirates that, again, you might not have heard of Charles Vane. You might not have heard, well, I'm assuming most people have heard of Blackbeard, but you may not have known that his name is Edward Teach. We're talking about people like Jack Rackham. Again, unless you've probably read it in a book or watched Stars, you have no idea who Jack Rackham is, also known as Calico Jack. Again, you probably have no idea who that is. What you would know is his banner. His banner is the famous Jolly Roger, the skull with the crossed, swords, right? So that is where that came from, was the standard of Calico Jack. These are the names that we're talking about. And those were all male names. You're right. There was a lot of pirates that were male, but all you girls out there, you've got pirate, heroes to look up to. You have Anne Bonny. Anne Bonny, one of the most vicious cutthroats to ever sail the seas. Gal, vicious cutthroat. Kind of a sexaholic too, but anyways, vicious cutthroat. She got what she, wanted through her legs, but she was still angry and mean and vicious. But this is what we're talking about. These are the people that we're talking about. And in the books and in the stories, it all kind of starts to also tie together. I'm not going to go into huge amounts of detail on this because I've done episodes in the past talking about the different types of pirates in the time, talking about Nassau and stuff like that. I've been to Nassau. It's a really cool place. But we're also talking about a potential here, another option for a Disney adventure as well, and another link, because there was a pirate known in this time in the books and everything else, that was named Captain Hook. Ties together with the Dark Brethren Court that Sea of Thieves has built with Davy Jones, because he was part of the first pirate court from Pirates of the Caribbean who locked Callisto away. And yeah, and that's the crazy thing about all of this is James Hook was part of all this. And he's part of Disney, and he's part of lore and myth and stories, and he falls into this golden age of piracy just along with the Pirates of the Caribbean. And Mike Chapman says we're not there yet. This golden age of piracy, and we're not there yet. And it blows my mind because I thought we were there. I honestly thought, with the style of ships we have, no, we don't have the man of war yet, right? But any ship can be a man of war. People want a big ass ship, right? With like 20 cannons aside, right? That's the man of war they think about. A man of war is not a class of ship. What the man of war was a vessel that had a lot of guns on it. A sloop could be a man of war if it had enough cannons, right? It's just a matter of, this is your standard ship. This is your standard galleon. This is your standard sloop. Slap a whole bunch more cannons on it, and now all of a sudden it's a man of war. That is basically what we're talking about here, right? But a lot of people think about, the big ships, the big and honestly galleon-style ships with 20 cannons aside and, all the guns. But again, we already have that. It just so happens that it only has 4 cannons aside. But that's beside the point. But thinking about the golden age of piracy, and thinking about that, Mike said we're not there yet, really gets my brain turning as far as what could we see? Could we see Captain Hook tied in from Disney and James Hook from stories and lore and myth and legends? Could we see that tie-in? Could we see a tie-in with Charles Vane? Could we see a tie-in with Jack Rackham? Could we see a tie-in with Anne Bonny? Could we see a tie-in with Nassau Town? Are we able to maybe eventually break out of the Sea of Thieves and visit Nassau Town? Or maybe people from Nassau Town, pirates from Nassau Town, come to the Sea of Thieves and we start to meet them? Because it's very known that not many people actually are born and grow up in the Sea of Thieves. Most of them come from the outside world like the Pirate Lord did. So it really, I've got goosebumps right now just talking about it. And I'm like, I know my window's open, it's cold outside, but I can tell you this. When I do these podcasts, I am very warm, heated, because I am energized and let's go. But I have goosebumps talking about the fact that we're not in the golden age of piracy yet, because it opens up so much story and opens up so many cool things that we haven't seen. If you go and watch a show like Black Sails and you look at Nassau Town, it is a town. It has buildings, lots of them. It has roads, it has people. It has a whole bunch of stuff. It's got a freaking fort. And then you look at Sea of Thieves like a ancient spire or a plunder valley or a plunder outpost. They're small outposts, rickety shacks, a tavern. These are not towns. These are not cities. The golden age of piracy could usher in some of that. We started to see towns and cities with a pirate's life. So we know that Rare has the capability to design beautiful, really immersive towns. Now the question is, are they going to come to Sea of Thieves? Is it going to be outside of the Sea of Thieves? What's going to happen? We've seen the world changing. We saw a new building on the outpost for a pirate's life with Calypso and Jack. We've seen changes starting to happen on Thieves Haven. We've seen some changes. If you haven't noticed, there's some changes that I noticed at Smuggler's Bay. Little tiny things are starting to pop up and move and build. So who knows what we're going to see in the future? But the fact that we're not in the golden age of piracy should excite you. Could it mean new weapons? There's still a lot of things in the book that we haven't seen. We haven't seen the alchemists. We haven't seen the engineers from the Sea of Thieves book. There is so much untapped potential in this game right now. But who knows how far we are away from that? Again, my guess is we're not going to see the golden age of piracy until season 10 or beyond. So 2023 or beyond. Because if Mike is just now having meetings with consultants and other designers about the golden age of piracy, that means this thing is literally, they're either still writing ideas down to put in that future bucket, or they're starting to pull ideas out of the future bucket to stick on a whiteboard concept wall for season ... which would be season 11, I don't know, whatever. But there's definitely a roadmap. Do any of us know it? No. Unless we work there, we wouldn't know anything about that. And unless we worked there high enough, we probably still wouldn't know anything about it. Nor could we talk about it if we wanted to. But I think everyone, though we've got our complaints about Sea of Thieves, and though we still have issues with bugs and exploits, and now we've got loot that is phantom loot that it shows that you can interact with it, you start to interact with it, and it doesn't do anything. There's obviously issues. We will have plenty of time to talk about that. But right now, I'm excited about its future. And listening to Mike talk to Logan and seeing the tweets that Mike throws out, and then thinking in my head how a development cycle works, and knowing that my favorite time in history has not even reached my favorite pirate game is so exciting. It's just absolutely fantastic to think about what the future for this game holds. I just hope that they, again, really think about how they release these updates to ensure they capitalize on the timing, the timing of the year that they're releasing these updates, and making sure they're trying to hit holiday times like Christmas, New Year's, Easter, those type of times where people are clearly going to be home, hitting those times with some updates that allow people to use that time, sit on their ass, put money into the game through the Emporium, and really utilize that time to beef up their numbers and make the game feel alive. Use Season 5 type stuff as filler. Don't make it a whole update. So some congratulations are definitely in order, and I originally started to type notes up on this before I did my research. Happens a lot, don't worry. So I saw briefly on Twitter that Sea of Thieves won an award, and I didn't see who it was from. I didn't see anything, but the award said Most Improved Game. And I started to type out this long-ass rant about how Sea of Thieves could never be considered the most improved game, where they still have game-breaking bugs that ruin player experience that they've had for years. Hit registration, silent boarding, loot sprinting, X-cancel reloads that still hasn't been fixed. The issue where they have matchmaking system issues where people are losing credit for stuff. When you have issues like that have been going on for years and they still are not resolved, that can never be considered most improved. Then I did some research and I had to delete everything I typed up. Because the organization who was nominating games was an organization called CIPT, or Can I Play That? And it is an organization that awards games based on accessibility. And what I will tell you, I'm going to pull up the categories here. And I'll tell you kind of like what some of the items are here. Let's see here. Gaming awards. Can I Play That? An organization that focuses on diversity, equality, and inclusion in games. All right. So they do awards, and the 2020 awards came out on December 13th. So not too long ago, a couple days before this recording. And everything that they're looking at is focused around what I just mentioned, accessibility in games. So let me see if I can actually see if it talks about this organization at all on this. They have a lot of stuff here, a lot of accessibility things, but you can check it out is at caniplaythat.com is their website. I'm just trying to see some of the, here we go. Can I Play That is excited to offer a diversity, equality, inclusion, accessibility workshop. So again, it's really focused on all types of inclusion and things like that. It's not just necessarily disability and things like that, but it has to do with just inclusion in the game period. Are you represented in a character in the game, et cetera, et cetera. So Can I Play That Accessibility Awards 2021? It is our pleasure to announce the winners of Can I Play That Accessibility Awards 2021 with our new Susan Banks Advocacy Award sponsored by Ubisoft. The last few weeks have been filled with behind-the-scenes conversations and organization before shifting voting from our panel of judges and also the public voting by you all out there, the player. All of you have your say on what games, studios, and individuals have done great work with accessibility this year. It's been a bit of a wild ride as well this year. Kind of started off a bit of dire to say the least, but things rapidly increased throughout the year. And in the past 3 months, we've seen so many games launch with accessibility. We've seen individuals achieving so much And it's been wonderful to see during the bleakness of the world over the past 2 years. So without further ado, that we announce the winners of the Can I Play That Accessibility Awards 2021. This year, we are doing it differently. We've announced the winners live on YouTube's premiered stream and tweeting out the winners in tow. You'll be able to find that video below. So you can come here and watch it if you want. But again, we're focusing here on that all of these awards are or nominees, they're focused on accessibility, right? It doesn't have to be the greatest game in the world. It doesn't have to be a game that's improved its development, whatever. Everything is about what that game and what that company is doing to make games more accessible for everyone, right? Making it inclusive, making everyone feel welcome playing. So some of the categories here, we'll go down through them. AAA excellence. So accessibility in a game made on the big budget by a big team. So really focused on that, right? The winner of that was Forza Horizon 5 by Playgrounds Games. Indie excellence. Accessibility in a game made on a small budget by a small team. The winner was The Veil, Shadow of the Crown by Falling Squirrel. Best deaf and I'm not sure what HOH accessibility is. Hard of hearing. It spells it out right underneath. Sorry. So best deaf and hard of hearing accessibility. The winner of that was Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy by Square Enix. Best physical mobility accessibility. This was Forza Horizon 5 by Playground Games. Best blind low vision accessibility. This was The Veil, Shadow of the Crown by Falling Squirrel. So Forza Horizon 5 and The Veil are knocking out of the park for accessibility. Best cognitive accessibility. This was the winner. The game is called Unpacking by Witchbeam. Best representation. So best representation of disabled characters. Again, it's about inclusion. It's about you being able to associate with characters in the game, either via you, the player, playing them or interacting with them. This was won by Halo Infinite, 343 Industries. Best journalism. Article about games accessibility. The winner of Best Journalism for this was How Xbox is Advancing Game Accessibility on Its Platforms and hopefully through the industry. The individual who wrote that was Grant Stoner. Best Academic Research. So Best Published Academic Research on Game Accessibility. The winner of this was Grounded Theory of Accessibility or Accessible Game Development by Yosef Kulik, Jen Beeston, and Paul Carnes. Sorry if I butchered that name. I'm going to skip the next one because we're going to talk about that in a second because it deals with Sea of Thieves. Best Game Accessibility Event. It was the Game Accessibility Conference by GA Conference. Or GA Conf. Most accessible gaming event was the Xbox Bethesda Showcase. So there you go. Rare was a part of that. Favorite innovation in accessible technology. This was Sonic Sight. I don't know what Sonic Sight is. They have a link here. Let's see what Sonic Sight is. Oh, that's really bright. Okay. Okay, it doesn't really tell me what it is, or it doesn't show it to me really quickly. It looks like it plugs into your audio. It's a cube. I'm not 100% what it is, but it looks like some sort of VR thing. I don't know. I apologize if I butchered all of that, but there is a link there if you would like to check it out. If you would like to check out that particular device. But that was the reward for most innovative accessible tech. All games should implement this. So this is a feature that they believe all games should have. This game was Game Speed from Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Biggest accessibility surprise was Microsoft's Xbox introducing storefront accessibility tags. Most dedicated publisher, so the publisher making the most significant and consistent efforts, Xbox Game Studios, Rare's part of that. MVP award for most dedicated developer, the individual developer making the most significant and most consistent efforts internally. This can include people working in accessibility roles. This went to Tara Voker of Xbox. The Susan Banks Advocacy Award. Susan made a profound difference at a critical time for the industry. This award can be someone either in development or not. Anyone is an advocate making a difference across the wider industry. This award was sponsored by Ubisoft and was won by Morgan Baker. So congratulations, Morgan. And the two that Sea of Thieves and Rare were part of, we'll start with Rare first. Most dedicated studio. So the studio making the most significant or most consistent efforts. Insomniac Games actually won this category, but Rare was nominated along with Ubisoft. So the three nominees for final voting was Rare, Insomniac Games, and Ubisoft, and Rare did not win, but the fact that they were nominated in the top three, especially with everything that I've talked about on what they're doing with accessibility. Again, for people like me and folks out there who maybe not have an exceptionality, might not have a disability, may feel welcomed in all games, it might not be something we notice. But Rare notices, and Rare knows that their team needs to focus heavily on making sure that everyone has the ability to play their game. And they're being recognized for that. So again, they did not win that award. So congratulations, Insomniac Game. I'm all about making everyone feel welcome. Hell, the charity Extra Life that I've worked with for years, I've got to go to conventions and help children around in wheelchairs so they can check out the convention. I've raised a shit ton of money for, Children's Hospital and things like that. So I'm all about finding ways to help people enjoy video games because I love video games and everyone should be able to love video games. So I don't know what Insomniac Games is doing out there, but freaking hell yeah. Okay, keep doing what you're doing in Rare. Keep doing what you're doing because the fact that you were nominated in the top three is incredible and really says that you're really, really working on making sure everyone feels comfortable and can play your game, regardless of skill or disability or whatever it may be. The other award that they were nominated for is Most Improved. Greatest progress through patches, mods, remakes, and remasters. Again, focused on accessibility, right? Not the most improved game as far as fixing bugs and stuff like that, but the studio who is most improved basically from where they were to where they are now in accessibility and inclusion. So the nominees for this was Ghost of Tsushima, I'm sure you guys know what that is. Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, Sucker Punch Productions, Hearthstone Blind Accessibility Mod by Guide Dev, and Sea of Thieves by Rare. And the winner was Sea of Thieves by Rare. Most improved through patches, mods, remakes, and remasters. That is massive. And everyone out there, and I know I've done my fair share of bitching and complaining about Rare, everyone out there who loves this game, regardless of if you have a disability, if you have an exceptionality, if you have anything whatsoever, either minor or major, you should be proud of this game that you love, and you should be proud of the studio who makes this game, that they are putting a focus around everyone being able to play it. You should feel proud about that because there are a lot of games out there and a lot of game studios who don't give a shit aside from the dollars coming in. They don't care if you're colorblind. They don't care if you have limited mobility in your arms or legs. They don't care if you're paralyzed. They don't care if there is a LGBTQ member or someone who is depicted or is disabled in the video game. They don't care. All they want to do is make a kick-ass video game that people will buy, and they don't care about anything else. Sea of Thieves and Rare have stated and have put a focus around making sure that when they develop the game that we love, that it's a game that everyone can love. And if you can't enjoy it for whatever reason, they are setting up ways for you to tell them and work with them in order to adapt and adjust the game in the future so you can play it. And that is something that every single one of us as a player should be very proud of. Regardless if we're pissed that our gun doesn't hit a target, regardless if we eat half a fish and we get no health back, regardless if we're on a boat and someone silent boards us, regardless if someone X cancels their gun or loot sprints, regardless of any of that, we should be proud and happy that the game that we love is focused on making sure everyone can play it and enjoy it. So congratulations, Rare, on both your nominations, and congratulations on your Most Improved Award from CIPT. Again, if you want to check out the announcement, if you want to learn more about CIPT or Can I Play It, you can check out caniplaythat.com. I will make sure I leave the link in the description box of the YouTube video and in the show notes on the podcasting apps. But that's going to do it for today, folks. We have went through season 5. I've gotten my thoughts out. I've gotten my everything out. I'm enjoying some of the new things. I will say season 5, because it really doesn't have any new content for me to go out and grind out. I have been taking this season just really, really casually, just putting a couple hours in so far. Because I'm really focused. I'm trying to put a focus this season around playing with other people. I've done a lot of soloing recently in the past couple seasons, and with the tools, not rules, and a lot of cool features to play with your friends, I'm trying to really focus this season. I want to complete the season pass, not doing anything solo and actually playing with people. So that's my hope here. But guys, I hope you have a happy holidays if you celebrate. Merry Christmas if you celebrate. Happy Hanukkah. I don't know all the holidays. I apologize. But I hope you have a good time with your family, friends. If you're by yourself, log into a video game and enjoy some time with people. I know I'm going to be playing a lot of video games. You can check out our live stream. I stream on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, starting around 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My schedule is always updated on twitch.tv/Davrim. You can also check out my YouTube, which has a lot of New World content on it right now, Davrim TV on YouTube. Obviously, we have the Pirate Talk Radio YouTube as well, and any subscriptions on that would be helpful so we can actually get the URL Pirate Talk Radio. It would be really nice to have an actual URL there. The Discord information for the Game Legion Discord, the Discord that I run, is in the information below. But guys, we will see you next week for the next episode of Pirate Talk Radio.